Seeing RRR was awesome because not only was I able to see this movie that everyone's talking about, but it opened up this whole new arena of cinema that I had no experience in, and I could seek all these titles out and enjoy them, and it's really exciting if you're a movie fan. And then I put out my RRR video, my review, and usually I get between 40 and 70 views, something like that. And my top video of all time was 2,500 views. My RRR video beat that and became my number one video in 8 hours. It's it was unheard of, and it's now sitting at like 32,000 views, which is just mind-boggling to me. So I have to thank all of you for watching that, and yeah, it's really amazing. And I got tons of recommendations, for movies to watch next. And then the number one movie that everyone wanted me to watch was Bahubali 1 and 2. So how was it? Bahubali is set in the kingdom of Mahishmati and tells the story of an adventurous and daring man who, while pursuing his love, learns about the conflict-ridden past of his family and his legacy. He must now prepare himself to face his newfound archenemy. The movie is directed by SS Rajamouli and stars Prabhas, Rana Daggubati, Anushka Shetty, and Tamannaah Bhatia. Now on Netflix, Bahubali had a couple of different versions, 4 different versions in fact. And the one that seemed to be recommended on Reddit was the Tamil version, which is closest to Telugu. And so yeah, that's the one I watched. And I found it really, really interesting too. Part 1 was rated TV-14. And then part 2 was rated TVMA. So I was like, okay, so apparently they bring it in part 2. I would say when you're looking at both parts, it's really kind of half the story of what's happening, currently, and then half of what's happened before in the past, like 25 years prior, and kind of the history of these people. And it's really, really awesome. In fact, it was kind of like, oh man, why are we going back? I want to see what happens. But I got completely sucked in to the story that's happening in the past. The thing about, now I've seen 2 Rajamouli films, or stories, I guess you could say. And there is a wonder to his filmmaking that's just, it can't be denied. The guy knows how to frame a shot. It looks insane. And not all the CG is going to look great, but the scale of what he's going for is just, it's just jaw-dropping stuff. I said before on my RRR video that my wife came in and sat down and got sucked in just a few minutes. Same thing happened here. Same thing. She sat down, and within like 10 minutes, she's like, this is in the middle of a day, and she's working, and she's like, I got to get back to work. So it was amazing to see that the storytelling prowess of SS Rajamouli is completely present in this movie as well. After watching the first part, I was like, yeah, that was fun, but it's not as good as RRR. So the second part started, and wow, I honestly think I might like Bahubali better. The story is woven together in this way that it's so effortless, the way that this story is told, which it just seems like, oh yeah, anybody could do this. No, this is not easy to do. I don't have a whole lot to compare these movies to as far as current US stuff, because the US is not making movies like this. They're not making these huge epic movies that are almost like biblical in proportion. They're huge movies. And the way that the different family members, the way that they interact, the way that they keep stabbing each other in the back, the way that misunderstandings cause rifts between characters, it's the only thing that I can compare it to is Shakespeare. It feels Shakespearean in nature, grand and very, very interesting and intricate, the way that these things play out. But what I didn't expect is that in part 2, there are things that happen that if you've been paying attention, and luckily I've watched these kind of not back to back, but I watched it one day and then the next. There are things that if you're paying attention, you're going to see coming. You're going to know that there's certain things have to happen. But I was still legitimately moved to tears. It was powerful stuff. And look, I'm not Indian. I don't know the significance of some of the religious imagery and the rituals that are performed in India. I have no idea, but the power is conveyed. And I was just completely drawn in and sucked in and emotionally involved in the story. I still feel that RRR is probably the more accessible movie just because of its length, because this is over two parts and they're like 2 hours and 45 minutes each. So this is not just, oh, well, let's just sit down and watch this. Of course, RRR, you could argue, is not that way either. But look, I just think that RRR is more accessible. But I'm telling you, if you watch that and you enjoyed that, watch Bahubali because it was great. I loved it so much. I said it with RRR that there are moments of, I'll just say, outlandish things that happen, right? There are things that defy the laws of physics. And you know what? Over here in the US, it just doesn't work for me. It doesn't work. Here it does. And the reason that it does is because I believe in these actors. These characters, I believe, the way that the story is presented, everything is done with such love and passion and earnestness and heart. You can feel that when you're watching it. You don't feel that in the US. I'm sorry, but you don't. You just don't feel it in like a Fast and the Furious movie. You feel it here, and you feel that it's almost like a warm embrace in a way. I don't know how that might be too poetic. All I'm saying is that's what I feel when I'm watching it. Now, all that might have been a bit over the top, but look, I loved this movie. I loved Bahubali. I loved both parts, and I want to watch them again, and I want to see more. So let me know down below what you're thinking. What should be the next movie on the list, right? What should be the next movie I tackle? A lot of people requested the KGF movies, and then some people were like, no. KGF is I don't know about that. Some people were telling me not to watch it. So it's kind of like, I don't really know what I should watch next. So please let me know down below what you're thinking. Tell me what you thought of Bahubali. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. And we'll see you on the next one.